Hello, welcome to the Long Run podcast and live stream brought to you by the FORDY Runs running community. This is the place for news, views and tips for everyday runners, and hopefully we'll have a few laughs along the way as well. My name's Ian Wilson. Good evening. Lovely to see you all. Well, I hope you're all out there anyway. This evening I am joined by for the usual crew, Mr. Chris Ford, Mr. Toby's here, producer Toby and Eddie, and our special guest from runbritainrankings.com, Tim Gross, who is going to tell us all about those all important stats that he manages to compile, mind-boggling numbers about park runs and general running stuff. So if you like your stats and you want to dig a bit deeper, then Tim's the man to talk to. So thanks very much for coming along, Tim, and joining us tonight.
Is he there? Tim?
Is he there? Hello, Tim. Thanks very much for coming along, Tim.
There he is. There he is.
There he is.
Hi.
Thanks for coming. How are you, Chris?
I'm all right. I'm struggling with a down week. I don't know whether anybody else has had this, where you take a bit of a circuit breaker and then you're sort of like, I think it's almost like paranoia that you're not doing enough. That you're like, and when you are running, it's really hard. I don't know. My mind this week is a mess because of where I've taken this down week circuit break. And if anybody doesn't know what that is, in marathon training, I can't recommend it enough, even to take 2 or whatever sort of down weeks to let your body sort of catch up with whatever you're putting through it. It can really make a difference in terms of training. So then you go into whether it's like a next step in terms of volume, mileage, effort, whatever you're going into, to take that sort of little bit of a down week to let everything catch up. It's really, really, really good, but it really messes with your head. So what I've resorted to this week is eating. I think the best way to get through a down week, I've decided, is to eat. So I've mostly been consuming gluten-free products because on my 90% vegan diet, I've switched to gluten-free on the recommendation of Mark Sloan. He said to me that that's going to help. So I've switched to gluten-free, 90% vegan. I think by the time I get to Edinburgh, I'm going to be about as thin as my microphone pole here. I think that's the way. But I don't think I'll be any faster. That's the only thing. But yeah, so that's it really.
You're having a down week. What week of training are you actually on, mate?
Well, you confused me the other week when you started talking about that you was on week 18 of 16 of 10-week plan or whatever you're doing. I got really confused. I think I'm on week 4. I think because I started my plan early, as I said to you before, but then I had the surgery. Then I had 3.5 weeks off of running. So I started again, and I think Ty will verify this. I'm now in week 4. This weekend will be would be a 4th long run because I've done 13 miles, 16 miles, and 18 miles in terms of long runs, which is what I'm counting. And then this week is my down week, where we're going to Duxford to cock about with take it very seriously on Sunday. So it should be my 4th week, if that makes any sense.
Right.
So that's where I'm at. So that's where I kind of try and put them in after sort of 3 weeks of building. I then take a bit of a down step, and then hopefully then I can go up because my volume next week should then go up from sort of 40 miles, should go up to like 50 miles. Does that make sense?
Did you apply it this time because you felt that you needed it, or did you scheme for it and think? Did you scheme 2 or 3 weeks ago? Right, I'm going to have a down week that week.
No, I always planned it. We put this race in as well deliberately. We spoke about it last week about putting races, and if you've not listened to that podcast, definitely check that one out about putting races into your training plan. We hunted around for a 10K race because the idea is to try and find something, a bit of a sharpener, and to find out where we are with pace, where we are in terms of fitness, where we are in terms of our zones, and all that kind of stuff can give us a bit of an outlook on where we are in terms of overall aerobic fitness in week 4, because we've been doing the training. Obviously, we've been doing it longer, but in terms of the 16-week plan, we want to know where we're at. So it's a bit of a watershed moment there. So then my volume then goes up, and then I've got London landmarks, half marathon distance again, testing out what it's building. So it was always in the plan, the sort of new plan after surgery, if that makes sense. Because don't forget, I'm coming back, so I'm still struggling to get my fitness back. I'm still struggling to get speed into my legs because I don't have that, strong base that I had, from all the years, of not having a break. So it is a bit weird. So I'm still struggling on certain days to go out there and just, sounds funny, but even to do like 3 miles, it can be strong. So it's good. I needed this, but it's really played my head because I've got into that pattern of, right, I'm back marathon training, and now I'm caught like sitting there going, now what the hell am I going to do? So I've resorted, like I said, to eating. So if anything else fails, people, just eat. I think that's the key.
That's your top tip for today. Just eat.
Yeah, people. I think I learned that, and all the England athletics.
Not eat people. Just eat, just people.
Eat. Yeah, just eat. Just eat, people.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that, mate. We've got if you can remember that we have an email address, longrunshow@gmail.com, so you can always send us your email. Chris will go through a couple of nice emails.
I've got some tonight.
Yeah, we'll dig them out a little bit later on. And also, if you're on Facebook, if you can link your account up to the Restream thing, that Toby's put the link up already, and then we can see who you are. We can see your little faces and your names, and we can say, oh yeah, it's so and so. It's Penny. Penny's just turned up, so we can see you, and we can take your comments and recognise who's doing it. So that's great. So Toby, you've been on a down week as well, then, have you? You can't just nod your head, mate.
The mute button. Yeah, he's nodding on a podcast. Well done, Toby.
Multitasking here. It's difficult. Yeah, I am definitely on a down week. I've eaten enough to be on a down week.
See what I mean?
I managed to get an awful lot of pizza for lunch at work. So I managed to get everyone to buy pizza, basically.
Less fast running, more fast food on this podcast this week.
It's the Speago diet.
It works. It's brilliant. The book's going to come out soon.
We're not having people selling their books on the channel, Toe.
Not even yet.
Unless I write one.
I didn't say sell it.
We talk to Ed a sec, because I've got to look for some information. I found something interesting out. Talk to Ed.
Right, we'll be the judge of that. Ed, how are you, mate?
I've embraced another down week. It's been really good. I'm doing very well on my down weeks.
Hashtag down week.
How many down weeks you had in the last? How long's your successive run of down weeks?
About 4 months worth now, I reckon. But no, in all seriousness, I did my longest run in about 3.5 months last Sunday, which is quite nice. Got up to just under 7 miles, and it was easy. And then I went out and got a bit lost on Monday night, because I still don't quite know where all the lanes are around where I live, and did another 5 miles, and then did something else during the week, and I'm going out for 10 miles on Monday. So I'm building up to this half marathon at the end of May.
Well back in the game then, mate, aren't you?
He's totally back.
Yeah, but it got quite cold, didn't it? I'm still not at the completely committed stage, because it did get quite cold midweek this week, which stopped me going out.
Are you a bit of a hibernator then, Ned?
Yeah,
he's absolutely. A bit of a fairy. Hedgehog. He's worse than me.
Yeah. But it did get cold, but the weather's looking nice tomorrow again, so I might venture out again.
Come and see Toby. We'll talk about that later.
I've got an important date tomorrow with a pub all day.
Another down week.
A down day. Just a down day.
Yeah. We've gone the down weeks to down days.
Oh, it's absolutely fantastic.
Oh, we've got loads of questions. Oh, hang on. Yeah, good shout, Ian. He's coming. We've got some questions in it. Ian's just put, I know I appreciate it on the podcast, but Ian's just put a Q for Eddie. Yes. If you've got any questions, YouTube, Facebook, stick them in with a Q, because we haven't got Alan, obviously. We've still got Cristiano Ronaldo, a.k.a. Eddie, on the field, on the pitch today. And so Al's threatening to come back at some point in March. if they let him out of the home. But
Yeah.
but my point is, stick a queue in front of it if you want to ask a question, especially for Tim. Make sure you flag that up with a queue, because I guarantee we will miss it. Because last week we were absolutely useless at answering anybody's questions or comments. So
everybody just left it to everybody else. Really,
Yeah.
we didn't know what was going on.
So shall I tell you what I found out? That's what I went to find out. Last
Okay.
week's show, by the way, I can't remember what was on it and what we really spoke about. I remember we had a go. I think I had a go at a few people. Wilco, you had a go at someone.
No, I don't have a go at anybody, mate.
Toby just ate some chocolate. But one of the things that I did find out was, and get ready for this, we are now, we need a drum roll, Tobe. We are now the biggest podcast in Mongolia. We had, I kid you not, we've taken over Malta and Singapore, right? Last week, I got it on here in front of me. Last week,
Is there internet there?
podcast, right? We had one poor listener in Taiwan. I feel sorry for them. But we actually had a listener in Mongolia. I'm not joking. It's here. I'm looking at it. If I could share my screen, I would. So we are now also not only in Malta, where we are the biggest podcast, we're also the biggest podcast now in Mongolia. Maybe we should start a specific Mongolia podcast about like goats and stuff. I don't know what else they do in Mongolia. They ride around on horses and things, don't they?
Yeah, Gobi Desert, isn't it?
Yeah.
Genghis Khan and all that.
They do a lot of running in Mongolia. Anyway, so big shout out to all our new Mongolia fans. We are coming. We're going to be doing a trip out there. We're sending Alan, and he's coming out there. Don't tell him when he comes back that I've suggested it, but he's going to visit all these far-flung places. So thanks to everybody who's listening in Mongolia. Oh yeah, don't forget Tasmania. We know about Tasmania, but Mongolia. Last week's episode was a huge hit. But I can't remember. Maybe a lot of people from Mongolia do the Brighton Marathon, and they're worried about the bag drop.
Yeah, they were concerned that they won't be able to take their bag on the day.
They couldn't leave their horse with someone. Not that I'm being stereotypical, but maybe that's what they're worried about.
I was at the Cambridge Half on Sunday, and the queue for the bike rack was longer than the queue for the toilets.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. How did you get on with the Cambridge Half, Wilco?
Yeah, it was very good. I mean, I did. It was the second time I've done it. I did it just before the first lockdown a couple of years ago, and I performed better, which was good. You know, I got there around 6 minutes quicker. I've got to say, the support was amazing. The number of people who turn up on the streets and support
looks
that
a big event.
Really good. It's a big event. Yeah, and I know you sort of like voiced your misgivings about it, and some of it might be a little bit on the boring side once you get out of town. But
what on the
I
M25?
quite like it. I mean, I've done it a couple of times, so I'll probably look to go elsewhere for my March half.
How much was it?
Oh, I can't remember off the top of my head. Probably about 40 quid.
Was it? Okay.
It's about 10,000 in it, according to the results. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, we've got to give a big shout out to Hell's Bells, Helen, who absolutely nailed it in terms of time. I think she was it 1:36. She was rapid around there. So Hell's Bells turned up and turned it on in Cambridge. So if I think actually we'll give some Cambridge some love, because there was a lot of people doing PBs in Cambridge. So there must be something good about it. Maybe I should go back there and
I think the support was the support for me was definitely the best thing.
Yeah.
And they do for someone who doesn't have his name on his t-shirt, they put it on your bib, and yeah, some little kid shouted, "Go on, Iron," which I thought was quite nice. Cheer me up.
That's a good point. I wonder if, because when we was doing London Marathon, Tobe had it. Tobe, I was running in a top without my name on it, and so everyone was calling me Toby. So after a while, when they were shouting, "Go on, Tobe," I was saying thank you to him. It was going for that long because we was running with him. I just kept saying thanks to him because he's so miserable. He don't talk to no one. I was saying thanks to everyone who was saying, "Well, go on, Toby." So I took it.
I don't think I don't talk to no one. Just sometimes you don't get the opportunity to have a word.
Oh, why's that?
Some people just keep on chatting. There's not quite the break.
Oh, that's annoying when that happens.
It's terrible.
It is really annoying.
Should we have a chat with Tim?
Yeah, I was going to say, should we talk old Tim's down here? We said,
we'll just have a little chat. Here we are 15 minutes later.
Quite a lot of YouTubers. One YouTuber won the Cambridge Marathon, and Ben Parks was there. Did he have a big entourage with him? Or
didn't notice.
Has he done a video on it, Tim?
I don't think he has yet. Or has he?
I don't.
I've seen some video he's done, but yeah. You see, he ran all right. Actually, 74 minutes. He's getting
It's
fitter
not too
again.
shabby, is it?
Yeah.
He'd have been on his 8th pint by the time I'd finished. You know, I was still being in bed by the time he was halfway around.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we'll have a chat with Tim now. Tim, thanks ever so much for coming. We got you on because you're quite a sort of like a brain when it comes to accumulation of statistics and things like that. And we've seen some interesting stuff regarding park runs that you've done, regarding which ones are the toughest and which ones are, well, for want of a better word, the easiest ones. But I know that that's only sort of like part of this work and the research and stuff that you do. So can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and about you, and briefly highlight, what your work is, what you do?
Well, I mean, I always think like to myself, I think I was a runner. I'm 55 now, so I'm getting on a bit. I mean, I think my best days are long gone. So yeah, I think I style myself as a bit of a never has been, but still trying after all these years. I've got a bit of a hamstring injury at the moment, so I was going to do the Manchester Marathon, but I think that's going to be impossible. I did a mile on the treadmill earlier and had to stop. So yeah, that's not great. But yeah, I mean, I've always been running since I was at school. I started when I was about 16. And then suddenly found if you did some training, you got better than you were if you didn't do any training. So yeah, then I sort of been running ever since really. And then I got into, I've always been like into numbers because I did a maths degree and stuff. And then I used to sort of like look at the times I did. And then back then, before the internet happened, there was no way of knowing how well you were doing. So back in the day, I used to be like a track runner running 800s and 1500s. And so I started sort of doing stats of like recording the best times in those distances from reading what was in Athletics Weekly, which when it used to be a weekly, it's no longer a weekly, bizarrely. And then sort of like the internet came on, I started doing it a bit on the internet and then working with the British Miners Club. And then eventually the Power of 10 contract came up with UK Athletics. So there's 2 sites that we run now, Power of 10 and Run Britain Rankings, which are hopefully you've seen one or the other of them. So if you go on there, you should find all the results and look up most people that have ever done anything in the sport. I mean, we haven't got all the results are there, but not everyone's got a profile. But you can kind of request one or create one yourself. I think we've got about 1 million athletes now altogether, and
wow,
some about 100 million performances. I mean, Parkrun alone are getting on for about 10 million a year. So and it's getting ever more. They keep now that they're back on, they're they're bringing up more events all the time, aren't they, and stuff. So yeah, so because I get all the results, and we did this thing on Run Britain where we have like this sort of golf style handicap. I think FORDY does a bit of golf. I'm a bit of a closet golfer as well. So
and Wilco's dynamite.
Oh yeah.
We turned it up. We went to this charity do. We destroyed the place. When I say destroy, it's because we spraying balls all over the place. Now, Wilco, he's a silent
anywhere apart from down the fairway. Then,
yeah, it don't go very far, but it goes pretty straight.
He's a silent assassin. He's the sort of geezer you want to always hit in the fairway. He's one of those.
Okay. Yeah, that's it's easier said than done, isn't it? Yeah, but
yeah, because I've seen yours is based on the sort of like the standard scratch score on golf, isn't it? So like
so I mean when
a median mark, isn't it, that you've got?
Yeah, so when we first started doing it, the guy Jeff Whiteman, who's the guy that you often sometimes hear at the Olympics commentating in the background, so he was in charge of Run Britain at the time, and so he said, "Oh, could you do some sort of system based on golf handicap?" So, and he was a good ideas man, but not much on the details. So he sort of said, "Here's an idea and go and run with it." So I thought, well, in golf, if you're a scratch golfer, you're a good golfer, but you're not necessarily like a Tiger Woods, are you? So I thought, well, anyone who's run about, say, 15 minutes for 5K, they can be a scratch golfer. And then anybody who basically walks around a park run can be like a 36 in that sort of score. So I looked at like the age graded tables and then sort of mapped on those percentages onto that golf style 0 to 36. And if anyone's any good, like Mo Farah, they can be like -7 or something to, give you a bit more numbers. And then so the idea is that, you do like different races, and some days it's like windy or some days it's hilly. And, when you've been running long enough, you can only really do PBs on certain courses on certain days. So the idea was to try and have a system where whenever you raced, you could see like what it was worth, in real terms, and not just like compared to your friends, but overall. So there's a few things in there that we do kind of like to give each performance like some points, and then your handicap is based on an average of your best scores. A bit like now they do in golf. It's your best, I think it's your best 8 scores now, isn't it, out of your last 20. So funny enough, their handicap system now is almost like exactly how I designed it. So it's a way of like all the races you do from like, well, even if you do like mile races up to park runs, up to marathons, they all get like a score. And you can then see how you're doing against yourself. So, if you start doing better times, then your handicaps should go down like it does in golf. And if you haven't run for a while, it might go up a bit. Not too much.
Does it vary greatly from the age grading system that people will have on their, they'll all be familiar with park runners?
Yeah, well, it's kind of, the point scoring, the basic point scoring is kind of based on that. But there isn't really any allowance for the actual age. You just compare yourself with other people. So I think my handicap at the moment is about 4. So if I look at like where I'm against other people who are 55, then it's a good comparison. But obviously I'm not going to be as fast as the guys who are like 20s, they're like negative or whatever. And it's a bit like golf, isn't it? I mean, it's like ageless in a way. So you can play somebody who's like older than you, who's better than you, and you play someone younger and you're better than them. So it's kind of like, well, whatever score it's a bit like if you do a time in a race, you're going to be wherever you are, aren't you, in the race?
Cool. Blatant hell.
But there's an enormous amount of. How do you get the data all together? There's an enormous amount of numbers, isn't there? How do you
with Parkrun, they have a system where they allow us. We did some work years ago, and in agreement, they allow us to sort of what's called an API, so we can basically request all the results from the weekend as like a bit of a download. So. And then a lot of the other ones are basically, we have a team of people that work and they basically transcribe it onto a spreadsheet and then upload it into a database. So most of our work, I mean, I kind of just look after the IT side of it. And then we have people that work in both on the Power of 10 on the track side and Run Britain on the road running side, just basically to manage all those inputs and manage all the emails that come in. Because as you imagine, there's so much data that, we get people often in results you like the mistake, isn't there? So people write in and say, oh, that's wrong, or you've got that time wrong, or that wasn't me. And so we have to provide a sort of a service where we kind of get people can write in and can complain. Sometimes they complain.
Yeah, I would imagine that 90% of the stuff that you get is people saying you got that wrong. It must be.
Yeah. Well, you get like people writing in saying, "Oh, I didn't run very well. Can you take that off?" And that. Well, we kind of, you kind of have to run with the smooths. If you run well one day, then you can't have that on, and then not the day when you just sort of run, jog around because you weren't feeling well or something, So,
we've got a lot.
It's not like golf where you think, "Oh, I've not played well today. I won't put my card in." You can't.
Well, yeah, it's a bit. I suppose, that's if you don't get in the results at all, that's probably a way of not making you. I mean, it's like in Parkrun, you can elect not to give your token in, can't you? And then you don't appear. So there is that. Which is
just do it.
The benefits of Parkrun for you have been huge because there's just, there's so much data available.
Well, I think it's great for everybody, isn't it? Because I've got my Parkrun t-shirt on underneath somewhere. I've got my 101 on, and I don't do as much as I could do. I'm not like one of these obsessives that does it every week, But I've done about 116 now. I mean, I live quite near Bushy Park, so I was able to start doing it. I remember hearing about it back in 2004, thinking that's stupid. I mean, who wants to run a 5K every Saturday morning? I'm in bed, So it took me about 3 years to even get down there, even though it was like about 10 minutes drive away. But once you've done it, you kind of realize what it's all about, And
Tim, we should send you down to Bushy. Have you come across Mel at Bushy Parkrun yet? She's on funnel duty. You can't miss her. You can hear her from Essex when she's on. But if you start licking any of those tokens or nicking them, she'll be after you.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But Hayden's down your way. They do a meet up on what day do they? Sorry, is it last night on a Thursday?
Thursday,
down there, bro.
Yeah. They even go to the Chippy.
Yeah, they go to the Chippy. I mean, what a great running group that goes to the fish and chip shop. I mean, that's that. Oh, hang on, we've got boys. Have you seen all the questions and stuff coming in? Has anyone else noticed? Or we all been listening to Tim?
I've had to mute mine because I was getting echo. So.
Oh, right. Okay. No,
Tim, you love these. That's nice.
We've got a lot, right? So look, let's go through these, and then we'll carry on. Shall we, Wilco? Because it's super interesting. But right, so Q for Eddie. Are you signing up for Great Virtual Race across Tennessee for third year? Yes or no,
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Yes, there you go. Ian Wilson. What happened to Al? He's in the home and they're currently giving him his jelly and ice cream. He'll be back soon. Love Cambridge, but pricey. I'm with you on that. Where else have we got? There's loads. Appreciate it's not for everyday runners, John, but we had 5 of our lads under 75 minutes. Tell us what our lads are and we'll give them a shout out. Any plans for a 40 meet-up on Saturday or Sunday morning of Edinburgh Marathon? Yes, there will be. But I won't be organising it because I'll cock it up. Love Tim Gross, our very own Andrew Leach. Here you go, Tim, you're getting some love. Cheers for the advice, lads. Ben Bailey smashed his half PB. There we go. We'll chalk that one up to the Long Run podcast. Well done, Ben.
Right, well done.
I don't think I'll take much credit for that, really.
Got fed up with the big races that didn't have licenses for the power of 10. London landmarks. Tim, does the Brighton Marathon have the power of 10 and all that stuff?
Yeah, well, there's a bit of a problem there, didn't there? Because I think last year they kind of like didn't bother to get a license, and
that's why I asked.
one year then they didn't bother to get the course measured, and you kind of thinking reaping what they sow a bit, wasn't it? So yeah, I mean, obviously there's no guarantee if you have a license through UK Athletics from Britain you're going to have a great race, but it's a bit disappointing when these big races kind of like try to sort of bypass all the stuff, because it's a bit of a tick in the box in terms of like, I mean, you're supposed to get like the course measured. I mean, if you're on a marathon, the last thing you want is to find out it was like a mile short or something, isn't it?
Or long.
Or long. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, because you could be on for. I mean, there was one that was long, wasn't it? There was that one, and then we had a problem with the guy. I think it was Ollie Garrett who won it. Well, he won it. I can't remember which round it. He won it when he got to 26.2, but because the race was long, he was second by the time they actually finished. So. It was kind of like, I think they kind of sort of shared the prize or something. Then it was, yeah. So,
question for you, Tim, from JBS, friend of the show. JBS is a mountaineer. He's run up Snowdon, just as a heads up. So it could be a tough one. What keeps you motivated to keep competing as you don't mess about? Is it the love of the sport, or do you set yourself constant goals, a bit like your birthday run? There you go. You see that?
Well, I mean, for me, I think if you ask my wife, if I'm injured, like at the moment, she says I'm bloody miserable. And I tried to run a mile today on the treadmill and then I realized that it was just hurting basically. So I thought about stop. And so I think now, like, yeah, if I'm sort of fit, I like to do a good race. But I just like to be able, especially during lockdown, it was great to be able to get out of the house and run for an hour or whatever you can run, wasn't it? And you kind of realize that you kind of like running for running itself, and if you can do races and that, so much the better. But if you can't run, then you kind of realize why you like it in the first place, I think.
Yeah. John, our lads are North Hearts Road runners. Big shout out. Any news on, are you all booked up? Anybody wants to come up Ben Nevis? No, it's not booked up. You can start. Tim, are you going to come and run up Ben Nevis with us?
Well, I've considered I can't run a mile on the treadmill on the flat.
It's September. You've got plenty of time. I don't want excuses. I think because I'd like to talk to you for the full 3 or 4 hours it's going to take us to run up. But you'll love it. Ask Tobe. He loves running with me. Don't you, Tobe? What?
I'm looking forward to this weekend. Short runs.
Yeah, he's getting away.
How far is that then? Ben Nevis. That sounds like a lot of effort.
Ben Nevis. I think we said it was about 4.5 mile up. I think I should know.
So when you ran up one a while ago, didn't I? Remember watching the video.
We ran to the top of Snowdon. Tobe ran up and down it in an hour and 48 minutes, wearing shorts.
Right. But no one saw him get to the top.
But nobody saw him touch the top. So
it's going to be bloody cold for me to not wear shorts. But
can you remove him from your stats? If we give you money, can you remove him from all your stats?
That needed a big V for void next to that.
Yeah. Please, Tim, that's a brilliant idea. Now we've got Tim on basically Toby. You're never gonna all your time is gonna eradicate. Or can we change him because he did a 5K recently that he's really upset about because he did a lap more because he's got this dodgy watch. Can you give him a better time because he's really upset about it? Look at his face.
Maybe later. Yeah, I'll have a look. Yeah.
And I tell you what, I just want to because I'm interested to know because I want to talk about the Parkrun stats that you do in terms of the courses, the fastest and stats, because we was talking about this the other day. What actually is the fastest park run, if there is such a thing?
Well, just look at my list. According to my stats, the fastest one at the moment is Victoria Dock in London. I don't know if you've done that one, but I did it once, and it's basically it's basically pan flat right by the river. It's not far from it's not far from when you do register for the London Marathon, I think. So often
By
people do
Excel?
it.
Yeah, it's by Excel. Yeah,
it's
it's
not that far
just
from
the other
there.
side of the cable car in Greenwich.
Oh, that might be
So
worth doing.
that one, but I think what you got to remember with the park runs is that all of them aren't as fast as some of the did you see that one in Battersea Park? They did a 5K. That was a lot faster than you did in a park run. So I think if you want to do your very best time in a 5K, you're best to enter a race. But obviously they're not as accessible, are they? Yeah, you got chip timing as well. And I mean, even Victoria Dock has got a couple of like dead turns, but when I did it, they weren't too bad because they were quite wide. I did another course recently where literally you had to almost stop, and then it was like a narrow path, and you literally had to stop and then turn around. So you lose all your momentum, and it was a bit frustrating. But that parkrun is parkrun, isn't it?
What's the slowest one, Tim?
The slowest one is the one in Great Yarmouth on the beach.
Alan wants to do this one.
Yeah, I mean, I used to go to university in Norwich, so I did a few races in Yarmouth. But I think because it's like obviously at a beach, it's like windy and it's sort of sand all the way. So I don't think anyone's ever broken 20 minutes there. It's amazing. So
that's a challenge, isn't it?
But Ben Parks did. I think conveniently he went there because I think he saw my list and went there for one of his videos, and he did about 21 minutes, and he's running like 16. I think he did just over 16 minutes recently. So that's like 5 minutes slower than he would be normally.
I've had a brilliant idea.
Is it take your watch up there?
What's that?
If you take your watch, they'll get there fine.
Yeah, they will get there fine. But no, I'm thinking we've got in a couple of weeks, hopefully Ben, Ben is running coming on.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Ben, as we know, is proper rapid over 5K. So I reckon that we challenge Ben when he comes on, as long as he doesn't mind running in sand, to go and have a go at it.
Well, he was doing a series, wasn't he, where he was running park runs every week. I think he had a few races recently, but I mean, it'd be good to go and see if he could what he could do there. Because
if no one's run under 20, I reckon we could start a new series, Challenge Ben. I'm sure he'll love it. He'll love it.
Yeah, we'll just sit there and have an ice cream and watch him.
Yeah, exactly, Wilco. We could just
you might do it in the middle of March when it's pouring the rain. Wait till May or something. It might be a bit warmer.
We want to make it uncomfortable for him. We want to challenge the boy. I mean, you see the times he runs. We want to challenge him, don't we?
Yeah. So you see, when you analyze, obviously you're doing this all the way through the numbers and everything, but do you see any sort of like correlated patterns between? I mean, people will obviously draw their own conclusions about sort of like gradient and things like that. Are there patterns that you can establish from looking at your stats?
Well, in terms of the fastest, I think in terms of the fastest, slowest,
fastest and the slowest, yeah.
I mean, the fastest one's typically going to be like flat tarmac courses that are generally the wind is not much of a factor. It's a bit sheltered. I mean, the slowest one's going to be like well, that's kind of an unusual one, but the next slowest ones, there's one up in Cumbria, which Winlatter, which it's really hilly, but it actually starts, it actually finishes higher up than you start. So you're basically running net uphill. So I think, people say the actual terrain isn't too bad, but you end up finishing a lot higher than you start. So you're going to be running slow or whatever, that sort of course.
Do your stats take into like the number of laps? Because my local one here, Barkley, I think is about 1 million laps, and I don't know whether your stats take into account how many laps something is, because I'd like to know how the park run with the most laps, so I could basically avoid it.
I think the most ones of the laps are pretty well in the prisons that you can't do. I think they run around the yard for umpteen times. But I think answer to your question, it's all based on the times that you do. So like the example of Ben Parks, really ran 21 minutes at Yarmouth compared to 16 minutes. So that means on the stats, he's so much slower than he would be normally. So that indicates that the course is slow. So if you had a course with lots of loops and lots of turns, then implicitly you would get a slower time than you would do elsewhere. And so, although there's not any direct effect of the actual course in the stats, effectively it is by the times that you do. So if you do a course that's like really muddy, say, it's going to be the same. And in throughout the year, it's going to change. If you did a grassland course now, it'd be like a torture, wouldn't it? It'd be like, you need trail shoes, be sinking. If you do it in the summer, it'd be like nice, smooth grass. You'd almost like a road race. It's a bit like Bushy Park. Some parts of Bushy Park course are on grass.
Yeah, it is.
And in the winter, you noticeably feel like it's so much harder when you go on them bits than you do on the tarmac bits. But you imagine the whole course is like that, and when throwing a few hills as well. And
Is there
and
any,
if you ever done any cross country races,
correlation between the number of people who turn up generally? Like, because obviously we talked about Bushy Park. That's probably I'd imagine the most attended race on a Saturday morning.
I mean,
which only sort of like some only have sort of 30 or 40 runners, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the accuracy of the stats, I mean, you're right. The more people you have, the more data points you have, and so yeah, sometimes you get some anomalous readings when you haven't got many people. So there's a few things that I do to try and mitigate that, which I won't bore you with the details. But yeah, but I mean, it's a bit like I was saying with the times. If you have a lot of people there and everyone's sort of like trying, because I mean, parkrun can be so much different to different people, can't it? Because I always, when I tend to do it, I tend to sort of, I wouldn't say race it, but I always try and try, if you know what I mean. And I always feel that the people around me are doing that. But, you know, you see plenty of messages on Facebook groups and the times that people do that. Sometimes people doing it as part of a long run, or they just want to run around with their son or daughter and something. So they're clearly not doing as well. So for those sort of people, if we detect they're running so much slower than they would be, they kind of taken out of the stats. So it doesn't really impact it.
Like it's like an unusual performance that just
it's like an outlier with effectively a technical term. But I mean, so it's kind of weeding out those sort of people from the stats, and so they don't make too much of an impact. But if you've got a park run with like Bushy, it's quite competitive at the front because you've got a lot of people running sort of like, there's a lot of people for a start. So wherever you are in the field, there's always going to be people to run with and push you on. I mean, I've done a few when there's quite big gaps when there's small ones, and you know, maybe you think, I'll just slow down a bit because no one's going to overtake you now, whatever. A bit like in a race sometimes, isn't it? Yeah. So all these things. I mean, the whole idea of these stats is to kind of average it out over a whole year. So if you went to any particular one, like a good example is the ones on the promenades at the seaside. If you've ever done one of them. So if you go to one of them in the summer with no wind, it's going to be so much easier to run than you go to it in the winter in the gale, you know, because one way I think if it was the Brighton half recently when they were flying along one way and then they came back and running like a minute a mile slower, something at least. So you imagine that over 5K, you're flying out one way and then you turn around and hit a headwind. You know, you can never run as fast in those sort of conditions as you can when there's no wind. So those sort of ones will, like, some weeks they'll be fast and other weeks they won't be. So often you think those ones that should be fast will be lower in the list because of the fact it's more based on the average conditions.
Interesting. And how would you recommend people use stats to improve their performance? So, how would you sort of like?
Well, I think I saw Seth Moore video today when he was talking about stats, and he was saying I don't use stats, but then you think, well, hold on a sec. Well, he marks his shoes in a scale of 1 to 10. He buys a gyrometer to measure the percentage softness. He plans his training to miles. So people use stats without really knowing about it. I mean, nobody who goes out for a run with no watch and just say, I'll run and then I'll come back when I've had enough. And, everyone wants to know they've run, I'm going out for a 5 mile or something, I'm training for a marathon. So implicitly, everyone's got some sort of stats in the head, even if who doesn't run these days without a GPS watch to see roughly how fast you get? And even if you don't look at it, you kind of look at the end thinking, I ran that time for that course. I was a bit slower today. And so I think everybody kind of does it implicitly, don't they? So for me, I kind of like to look back on Strava and say, I ran that course another time and my heart rate was a bit lower. And I tend to do it afterwards. I don't tend to be worried about it too much on the actual run. If I'm just training normally, if I'm just doing like for an easy run, then I don't often even look at my watch at all because, why would you? I mean, your legs kind of tell you how fast you're running, don't you? And
okay, but here's a question. Okay, right. So here's a question. Are we now, right? Actually, 2 questions. Comment on this, people. Anyone who jumping in? I've just seen Kim jump in and say she's got no idea what we're talking about. Kim, we talk about stats and park run and things like that. But in general, are we now too reliant on running to stats and running to data points as runners now because there's so much available to us? And are we so hooked on the drug that is Strava, right? Are we so fixated on the data and or whether it be, I don't know, whatever your work, Garmin Connect or whatever, are we so fixated on that now as runners that it's to our detriment, or actually is it positive? I don't know, because I've seen some runners, even some runners that I coach, they're like hanging on their watches, and it's like, no, let's take that away and worry about that later. Are we? Yeah, are we sort of? I don't know. Are we too fixated on
Well,
stats?
I mean, I was an age where I ran better before I even had all I had was a Casio, you know, back in the day, and just, you know, because you go to like the running, I used to be a track runner, so you go to the track, and you know how far you run because you run a lap and it's 400 meters, isn't it? So you don't need
Well,
a GPS.
Toby doesn't. Sorry, Tim. Toby doesn't. He ran 13.5 miles. So on Phil, he thought he ran 12.5, like me and Si did, but he actually ran 13.5. So if you're slightly off, like Toby was that day,
if you can count now, it should be all right.
If you can count your laps, Well, I mean, Missy, when you've done a few, you probably lose count. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure, like in the old days when I was younger, I swear I used to run 6-minute mile pace all the time, and then I think looking back at it, you know, I did. That was like I didn't, you know, I didn't used to run that fast all the time. And nowadays,
Ed, I'm going to bring Eddie in on this because Eddie, you like to run to your watch. Do you think you're actually overloaded now with information, or I mean, what do you take out of it? He's on mute. Ed, come on, one job. No, we still can't hear you, bro. This is when, you know, this is the problem when we're live, people. Toby, you're meant to be in charge of the production. You've just mucked it all up. So what I'm going to talk on behalf of Eddie. He says, "Yeah, I agree with you, FORDY." So he's laughing. You can't hear you, Ed. So
push your button, mate.
What?
Mute.
We can't hear you, Ed. I mean, this is the thing. So maybe when I said that we had Cristiano Ronaldo coming off the bench, maybe it's more like we've got
Ronald McDonald
on the bench. Maybe that's. So do we start a hashtag bring back Alan?
He says he's not on
the
me.
Thing because they can't use his mind. Anyway, what I was trying to get out of Ed, because basically Ed does like, and he's very good. We have to give Ed some massive love because he's very good at pacing. And I've run with him, you know, marathons and stuff like that, and he's bang on. We did a thing the other night in Hartford, didn't we, Wilco? And he was running around and he was on point with his pacing. But the wider discussion is there too much data? Are we too reliant on the technology? Are we hung up on, you know, our cadence from data from our watches? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
I think you can definitely get too bogged down in that. I mean, we talk a lot on here about heart rates, don't we? And not only do people find that difficult to measure properly, but they don't half bang on about it and take it as a, you know, it can get too much.
It can.
I think you've got to enjoy the process at the end of the day, haven't you?
Yeah, it can be frustrating, especially as a coach. It can be very frustrating when you've got clients who are reliant on the data, and then you check, you know, like I said to you the other week, you talk about the fact that, you know, you're running this, and this zone. Have you got a heart rate monitor attached to that? Oh no, I'm doing it on my Apple Watch. Well, okay. It's not ideal. So this is the thing with some of this data. I don't know. I think we're all a bit hooked up personally on Strava too much. I'd love to have evented Strava is obviously the first thing. But secondly, I just think maybe we do. I think
the importance with Strava is that you don't put too much. Don't use it as a comparison and showing like, right, I've got to run faster than FORDY did on Tuesday and Toby did on Wednesday, and get competitive like that. I think it's a great reference, and I don't think that it would have been a lot more difficult for me to take to running to the degree that I have over the last 3 or 4 years that I've been doing it if I didn't have a GPS watch and a bit of a signal that I was making some progress and I was heading in the right direction.
Yeah, no, I'll make you right on that. I'm not sure, but I want to move a little bit on, if that's all right, boys.
Should we give him another go?
What? Who is it?
He's back.
Oh, is Eddie there? No, still can't hear him. No. Eddie just said to everybody that he thinks it's the best podcast and he can't believe how big it is in Mongolia. Just put that out there. Right, because there's some questions coming in. I've seen a couple of them and I want to touch about it because we've got Timmy, because Tim, like me, also loves a pair of running shoes. And we've had a couple of questions
new ones up here
in. So if you've not seen Tim's channel, we'll put the link when the video goes on to YouTube and it's up there permanently. And we'll also add it into the description of the podcast so you can find Tim's YouTube channel. But you, like me, Tim, you love a pair of shoes.
Or
Just,
3, or 10.
I'd be interested to know, firstly, your thoughts very quickly, because we're running out of time, because I want to get some of these questions on those Pumas, because I've had mine a while now. I absolutely love that shoe. What do you think?
I'm trying to deviate Nitro Elite. I've been trying to get hold of the pair of these for absolutely ages. And Andy, the FOD runner, we're both UK 13, so not exactly the most common shoe size, but he sent me a message saying, yeah, well, he decided not to bother to get them. I think there was only one pair available, so I felt a bit guilty because my cat's in the way. Apologies.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, I've even though I'm injured, I've worn them a couple of times this week, and yeah, I mean, they are. I haven't done them justice yet because I'm just literally hobbling along, but you can see that they're just nice. They're about the same weight as the next percent, and they're like see-through. So when I put my socks on, I can see I can see either the left or right of my socks, and
that's helpful.
So yeah, I mean, I look forward to actually taking them out on a proper run when I can actually run a bit faster. But
they've just become a little bit more available. Funnily enough, I just filmed a video about them again because I've had them a while. But I just absolutely, when just something works for you, it's just a really good shoe. So, but the reason that follow on, because somebody's wrote, question, I'm using the RC Elite, which I didn't have, but did you have that, Tim? The RC Elite?
Yeah, the RC Elite, I've got both 1 and 2.
And they need a daily trainer. Would you recommend the Rebel or the 10? Well, I've got the new version of the 1080 sitting here looking at me.
Okay. Yeah, I had the 1080 V10, which was all right. Like you, I think I gave up on the Rebel. I just found it too soft. The Rebel V2. I did about 50 miles in it. I just felt like I was running on a sponge. It just felt like I was sinking all the time.
I tell you what's nice with the Rebel is if you haven't worn it a while. Funny enough, I wore it. Was it last week? Yeah, just to chuck on out of the blue is fun. But then you probably wouldn't want to do a lot more in it. I'd always go for my Mac 4s, for example. So
I don't really like the lower drop shoes. I prefer like the Nikes or the Adidas with like a 10, like a 10 mil. So when it gets down to about 6, I can feel that's a bit alien to me, I think, as well.
Okay.
So yeah.
Next one, Fuel Cell TC or Rocket X?
Well, Hoka, I kind of tried Hoka and I haven't liked any of them yet. So I think I'd have to go for the
Fuel Cell TC for you.
I'd have to go for the Fuel Cell one. The New Balance one, yeah?
Yeah, New Balance Fuel Cell. All right, so there we go. That was that. Right, so I want to move on to the emails because I printed them off again, boys. Super organised. Eddie's back, by the way. Anybody who's joined us.
Can you hear me?
He's back. We can hear him.
I love stats and those trainers.
He loves stats and those trainers. There we go.
Always use me watch. There we go. I've been listening.
Oh dear. One day we'll actually get to a point where we almost like seamless. But then it'd be boring, wouldn't it? Because then we'd be like all those other boring podcasts that are out there.
The ones that are below us in the charts.
Yeah, the ones that are significantly below us, Wilco, I would say. And
think of the excitement.
And they're probably not as big in Mongolia.
Exactly.
Yeah. Who is?
Yeah. So I'd like to know anybody who's thanks to the super chat, Javis, who's bigger than us in Mongolia. Right. So I've actually got 3 today, boys.
3.
But one of them's just a shout out because I had to print off because I would have forgotten it. Wilco, you haven't done your plug. There's 2 plugs we've got to do. And we've got competition prizes to give out as well. Gee, this is going to be a big one tonight. Just pre-warn everyone. We've got results of the Northampton race giveaway coming in 10 minutes. Don't forget that. We've got to say that this show is sponsored by Nazy Fish and Chip Shop, and mainly because I just went there. Don't tell Mrs. Ford. And plug for the 40 Runs Running Club. Anybody who's an existing member, renew your membership. If you're not an affiliated member of any club or with a club that you're not going to, join 40 Runs Running Club. It's a UK affiliated club. It's like 16 quid a year. You get all the affiliated benefits. It's all on the website. Check it out, www.40runs.com. Especially if anybody's like a solo runner, but you want to get all the benefits of being affiliated. Join up. It's virtual. Obviously, we've got the satellite clubs. We've got the Facebook group and all that sort of stuff. So make sure you join that. We do have an exciting announcement to come in a couple of weeks about a new sponsor, which I think will blow everybody's mind, by the way. It even blows ours, but we can't talk about that yet. Right. So anyway, leave the reviews. Thanks to everybody who's left reviews. Keep leaving them, because the more reviews you leave, the bigger we go up the charts and the bigger we get in Mongolia. So this is for Robert Robinson. Can't review the pod as I listen on a podcast player, but gave you a shout out on the Welsh Marathon Post. I saw that. They did a review, something related to the Welsh Marathon Post. Funnily enough, their podcast, whoever it was, came first. And then a load of like media back podcasts that are like well polished and whatever. So anyway, but thanks very much, Robert. We really appreciate the love. Right, serious emails coming up. And Tim, you can jump in on this as well. And Eddie, now your mic's working. This is from Andy Cadwell. These are quite old, these emails. Sorry about this. Oops. We do read them, but it's just when we get time.
Just ignore it.
I'm running London this year, aiming for a sub 4. Right, you'll smash that. Started running up again. As haven't done an event since 2018. I just go out consistently every week, doing mix of tempos, blah, blah, blah. Basically, until my training plan starts, which he probably has, should he be adding long runs in? So he's doing a mixture of runs. At what point should he add long runs in to his training? Ed, you go first.
For me, consistent running, but how far are the consistent runs now? Because I'm doing Berlin, which is a week before London, I think, in the autumn. I won't go up to half marathon till the end of May, but that will get me 16 weeks away, I think, from Berlin and up to half distance. So I guess it depends what you consider a long run in your normal training. I would say now, like this weekend, like I'm going to do probably 8 or 9, and I'll do a few weeks of 8 or 9, then maybe go up as we get into April and it gets a little bit warmer, go up to like 10s, 11s, and then drop down. I'll still have down weeks in there. I've got 10K at the start of May, and then I'll move up and do that half and really go for it in that half. Then I'm having a week completely off, and then I'm
eating.
Well, I'm on holiday.
So eating. And drinking if in holiday, for you. Yeah.
Well, absolutely.
Ed, is he gone? No, he's still there.
Yeah.
Toad, what about you?
I quite like a bit of distance. I think it varies. Everyone would say it's good to have the down weeks, but I think trying to keep around a half marathon, even out of a training plan, I quite like keeping that sort of as a base
in your locker. Yeah.
Doesn't always work like that.
It gives you a bit of confidence, doesn't it? Like if you've got a bit, you think, well, I could go out tomorrow and do a half. It gives you a bit of a boost before you dive into the plan.
It's nice having it in your locker, isn't it?
Experience.
So there you go, Andy.
I quite like to vary the distances as well. If you run in like whatever miles a week you do, and if you do a long run, which is what do you mean by a long run? I mean longer than all the other ones. Then I think it's great for endurance and just take it easy. I mean, you don't need to smash it out. Just run comfortably. It shouldn't be like conversational pace if you're running with somebody. If you can't have a conversation, you're running too fast, basically.
Yeah.
But I think also you need to be, before you start a marathon, you need to be fit to start it. You don't want to start a marathon block on no training at all. So you need to keep that sort of level up. And why not just? I mean, I was doing like 5K training last year, and I was still running, like you said, half marathons on Sundays quite often.
Okay. Next up, Rachel. Rachel West. So my question is on interval training. We'll start with Tim on this one because he does intervals on his treadmill, I'm guessing. Tim, yes, no?
Yeah, when I'm dodgy hamstring.
There you go. Right. Okay. So what should my intervals look like? In the past, I've done 2 on, 1 off. For the 2 on, I've just gone kind of death pace. So she's 2 on, she's going hard, and then 1 is at recovery pace. But how many intervals do I do in a session? Should I aim for a flat or mix and hill sprints? Blah blah blah. So basically, she just needs some advice on interval training. Any sort of sessions or ideas that you can give her, Tim?
Well, I think one thing I've learned over the years that you don't need to sort of absolutely kill yourself in interval sessions. You don't need to sort of treat them like flat out. So if you're doing stuff like 10 400s on the track, or if you're not at a track, you can just do it in a straight line, and then have a 10. You might want to start off having, say, 2-minute recovery and then bring it down to a minute when you get fitter. Or if you run a bit longer, do like 6 1K reps, something like that, or 6 by half a mile, whichever you work in. Maybe resting for maybe half the time you're running for. Because if you're training for a long distance event, you don't want to be resting for too long, because the whole idea is to run continuously at a pace, and you want to get those sort of. I mean, say you're training to do better at park runs, you need to get used to running at the pace you want to run a whole 5K for. So the idea of intervals is that you can break down that stuff and run at your target pace in training, so that when you come to a race and you're fresh and motivated, you can hopefully keep it going for the whole distance. That's the basic idea of interval training, isn't it?
Yeah. Ed, anything to add? Oh, he's on mute. Oh, he's back.
I'm not. Is it gone again? Am I back?
No, you're right. You're okay.
So just building on what Tim said there, I've not run intervals too fast, because intervals should be getting you used to running at that pace you want to race. It's a little bit harder than your marathon pace or your 5K pace, wherever you want to get to. And so don't run them too hard, but run them consistent. Don't go out and do your first two, amazing, but by the last, like your 6th, 7th one, you're really, really hurting. Make sure your first one's the same pace as your 7th or 8th one or whatever it is. And the other thing I like to do, especially when I'm marathon training with intervals, is make sure there's a really long warm up, like 20 minutes, maybe a couple of miles beforehand and a couple of miles after it, so you're still building that endurance while doing. So that'd be really, really, really easy pace, 20 minutes before and 20 minutes after, just to warm straight into sprinting hard or running really hard. You're quite likely you do.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, a lot of people, they do crash into intervals. They go, oh yeah, it's Tuesday, it's interval day, and then they go wherever they're going to go and get straight into it, and that's probably the worst thing you could do. I echo both the thoughts there. I think the key to intervals and getting the max out of them is consistency in those splits, whatever you're planning to run, whatever the goal is, like Ed said. So look for like always, but look for consistency, do a decent warm-up, decent cool-down, and get the most out of the session. And just, I think we're all guilty of it. We don't commit. So whatever your level is in which you're going for that intervals, is commit to it. Whatever it is, whatever pace you've decided that you're going to be doing them. Like it said, I think personally intervals are different. If you're marathon training, they'll be different. Look totally different to if I was 5K training. They're totally different. So it depends again. The intervals aren't just intervals. There's different types. Don't just think you've got to go and just kill yourself. It needs to be a little bit more structured than that. But yeah, I think the key to that is
don't get too hung up on the times. I mean, sometimes I just run for, like, rather than running say 800s, I run for 5 minutes, and then you're not really on pressure to say, oh, that one was faster than the last one. You're just getting a solid workout in. So
find a loop. A great way is to find a good loop that's a rough, 400, 800, whatever.
Yeah,
but it's a nice loop, so you can get that again. I go back to my point. It's about consistency on the intervals. That's how you max those sessions.
And don't worry if you're a bit slower than last week or a bit faster. Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're just training. The races is the important thing.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. Right, I just want to head over to the comment section and the other bits and bobs before we get to those winners, Wilco, if that's okay. We've got there's loads in there. Thanks to everybody who comments on all this stuff. I still don't understand why you all turn up and listen. Apart from the fact Tim's here, I wouldn't even bother otherwise. With intervals, should you recovery? It's up to you, Robert. With intervals, should you recovery and jog? I prefer personally to recover and jog, but I appreciate that if you've just blown it, you might want to do it in walk. It's entirely up to you.
Depends how fast you're going. If you're doing like really short, fast ones, then you're lucky to be able to do it in more than a couple of strides. If you're doing more like sort of marathon tempo ones, then you're better off to jogging. I think.
So 100% agree. Right, so Wilco.
Hello.
What have we forgotten to talk about apart from most of it?
I'll tell you what we have forgotten to talk about, and we'll have to have a special next week. It's Toby's 100th park run tomorrow.
Yeah, let's not. I wouldn't give him any. I wouldn't really talk about it because all I know is there's cake. If anybody wants to do a bit of tourism tomorrow, I won't worry too much about the running bit. There's cake and it's gluten free, which is the only reason I'm going.
There's a lot of cake.
There's a lot of cake. Admin's been out and sorted out the cake.
Yeah, Sabrina's back now. So
how about the toe? Could I just put a complaint in now? If there's not coffee with this cake, I'm going to have to write up.
We go Costa, get like coffee.
No, I'm not going Costa because you get porridge when you go there. And
why don't you bring your own coffee?
No.
Well said, Wilco.
What, are you his mate or something?
I'm just
No.
saying, you know.
I'm expecting admin to pull up with coffee. If there's not coffee after my sterling effort around Gunpowder Park tomorrow, that then's going to filter into Tim's stats. He's going to be all over it.
Oh, is that what you're doing, Gunman?
Yeah, just can you whatever?
Easy, Tim.
I'll tell you what, Tim. Can you do us all a favour? A bit of a laugh. He's not listening. Can you
136,
take one of
that's
Toby's
quite
park
fast.
runs away, so he's on like 98.
Yeah, or
Okay.
leave him on 99 on Sunday
Yeah,
morning. Just leave
that'd
him on
be
99 for another
hilarious.
month.
But
That's
don't
a
tell
fairly
him.
quick one. 136 in my list out of quite a few. So yeah,
It's
no
quite
excuses.
it's quite rapid. There's a little hill.
It's not a
Two
hill.
hill.
Yeah, and up the back's a bit naughty because you tend to Tobe loses GPS a lot up there with his dodgy watch, up the back there. So you've got to watch out. But if you could knock him down to like 96 or something, that'd be
Yeah,
well
that'd be a
handy.
laugh.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It'll-
Let's do 100 again then.
What?
The Benjamin
Oh,
Button.
Yeah,
What?
so
Hey.
yeah, if you fancy a bit of tourism, you want to join Toby tomorrow. He's at Gunpowder Park. Take your own car park
And coffee.
and coffee. Yeah, get there nice and early and get space in the car park. There'll be loads of 40s there. Lots of people. Unfortunately, I can't make it, but lots of people from Hertford are going. Cheer him on, the old boy, because I do like him. Really, he's all right.
What's
So,
the old bit come from? Hold on.
Yeah, he'll
What
be getting
shoes are you
plenty
gonna wear
of-
tomorrow
we
then
go
for this
along to
occasion?
Gunpowder Park in Waltham Abbey tomorrow, in Essex, just off the M25, junction 26, I think.
Good guess.
Round then.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, come along. Yeah, pop along and see Toby at Gunpowder tomorrow.
Now, what about me? I'm there. Don't come and see Toby. Come and see me.
It's
Don't
his
worry about
show. You're the
it. You
bridesmaid,
won't
mate.
see him. He'll go round it in 20 minutes. He'll have a cake and go. You won't see him.
2004.
20,
You
20,
can
yeah,
do
he's
20
done
minutes
that.
What's your
tomorrow.
PB then for
You're
Parkrun?
awesome.
2004 park run for Tobe.
Oh, you've got to get under 20 then, surely. Be a good
Yeah.
time to do it.
Tomorrow's the day.
Nah,
No.
not after the pizza I had today, no.
After his down week.
Anyway, before we go, I'm going to have to announce these winners of the Northampton competition.
Yeah.
What was it? 10K?
Yeah, this is. I'll tell you what. All right, big shout out to Run Through. Big shout out to Great Run last week because we've been giving away some race tickets the last couple of weeks. So thanks very much to all those people who have been getting in touch with us to give back to our community. So that's all through the 40 Runs Facebook community. If you're not on that, make sure you do join that because they're a lovely bunch of people that do awesome things, including volunteering this weekend and stuff like that. So big shout out to all our 40 Runs volley squad, all our 40 Runs runners and everybody else just in the family. It's just incredible. So yeah, we've been lucky enough to give away some race tickets. It's the Northampton 10K for Run Through. And we put a post out and Wilco's now going to draw out
The two winners are Robert Hallam and Barbara Markey. So if you can drop us a line at longrunshow@gmail.com and we will pass on the details. So congratulations. There will be, I'm sure there'll be other opportunities for those who are perhaps unfortunate not to have won this time, but hopefully our friends at Run Through will be giving us some tickets for some other stuff. We've now done 63 minutes, so I think we ought to draw the veil down and say that we've banged on a little bit too much.
Yeah, no one's really listening anymore.
I'd love to say thanks very much to Tim for coming along, and it was really interesting. I think it's really enlightening that your stuff you're doing, and it's a great service you're providing for people.
If you've got any questions, drop them down in the comments, and I'll try and answer them if there's anyone that wants to know, or maybe do a Q&A on my own channel if there's enough warrant.
Yeah, could you just give us a plug for all your socials and your sites and everything, and then people know where they can find you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, what's your site? What site should people look for, and what's your YouTube?
Oh, it's under my name, Tim Gross, Grose. I'll put under as on my label there. No, I'm not one of these people that tries to sort of like I'm the something runner. You know, I'm just me.
Yeah. So there's plenty of stuff out
or lanky Tim or something. I'm quite cool.
And we'll keep an eye out. I'll try and be a bit more stats friendly about sorting out my park runs and everything like that. So thanks ever so much for coming along. Cheers, Eddie. Sorry about the technical issues, mate. Don't know whether they're all our fault or your fault, but hopefully we can get them rectified for next week.
It's Toby's fault. It's not Eddie's fault. It's Toby's fault.
So big luck. Good luck tomorrow, mate. Hope you've got a balloon and all that.
Yeah, I ain't got anything. I'm you know me, Mr. Organised.
He's just going to turn up.
Is he going to turn up?
Without the coffee?
I'll have coffee for me. I can't do coffee for you because it'd be I can't do normal milk. It's not vegan, but I don't do coconut and milk. And, it's too complicated. You're out.
Well, have a great day at Gunpowder tomorrow, fellas. Thanks ever so much for joining us, everybody. If you can't catch us at 7 o'clock on YouTube and Facebook, then remember you can download us on a podcast on the usual places: Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and leave us a review and push us up those charts. We were 4th in the country last week. Unbelievable. I don't know how many people,
Well, we slipped from 3rd, Wilco, so people aren't leaving enough reviews, so make sure you remind them.
Yeah, so tell everybody how lovely we are. That we won't be offended. That'd be great. So we shall see you next week. Remember, if you want to bung us a note up on Facebook or send us an email at longrunshow@gmail.com. Chris will pick up the email, forget about it for 6 weeks, and then we'll read about it and get round and have a chat about the content. So thanks ever so much for joining us. Have a great weekend running. Stay safe, everybody, and we shall see you next week. Thanks very much.
Type, roll us out.